Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about topic nitrogen fixation. Myself, Dr. A. Madhuri, Assistant Professor of Microbiology in Government Degree College for Women, Begumpet. Coming to the types of nitrogen fixation, nitrogen fixation is of basically of two types: non-biological and biological nitrogen fixation. Non-biological includes basically what is nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation is conversion of atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia. Okay, so this process of conversion of atmospheric nitrogen or dinitrogen into ammonia can be done by two processes. One is non-biological and the other one is biological. Non-biological means there is no involvement of any living organisms, or biological entities are not involved in this conversion. Example: thundering. During thundering in the sky, nitrogen fixation can be done, or at higher temperature and pressure by Haber's process. This conversion of nitrogen to ammonia can be done by chemical process. So coming to the biological processes, it is done by non-symbiotic and symbiotic processes. So microbes fixing nitrogen. As we have seen in the previous slide, it can be by symbiotic and asymbiotic. In this, 30% of nitrogen is fixed by free living microorganisms. Okay, so whatever nitrogen is being fixed by the um, microorganisms, out of this 30% is done by free living microorganisms, whereas 70% is done by symbiotic association. Then 2 to 3 times higher in symbiotic association. The amount of nitrogen is more fixed by symbiotic association. And in aquatic environment, cytobacteria, that is for example nostoc and anabina, are also helpful in nitrogen fixation. These are blue green algae, they help in nitrogen fixation. Now, these are the examples of free living or non-symbiotic associations seen in the nature where nitrogen is being fixed. So, taking the first example, this is aerobic heterotrophic condition. Aerobic means under that it requires oxygen. Heterotrophic means it is dependent on other organism for their nutrition. Okay, so for example, Azotobacter, Derxia, Azomonas, and Beijeringia. Next is aerobic phototrophic. Here, by photosynthesis process is taken place, and it is in by an aerobic process. Example: Anambina, Nosta, Calothrix, Gliotheca, etc. And next is facultative heterotrophic. Example: Klebsiella and Enterobacter. Anaerobic heterotrophic: Clostridium pastorianum. Anaerobic phototrophic: Chromatium venosum, and so on. Anaerobic autotrophic methanobacterium. So these are the different types of associations of free living microorganisms which are helping in fixing of nitrogen. And next is associative symbiosis. Associative symbiosis means it is something like incomplete symbiosis. It is not complete symbiosis. Here it is seen in with tropical grasses, example azospirillum. And next is symbiotic association. Here in symbiotic association we have seen 70% of nitrogen is fixed by symbiotic association. So in this association, we can see a root nodule formation. There will be nodules formed on the roots of a leguminous plant. So this symbiotic association, main example or the best example is Rhizobium and leguminous plants. So Rhizobium is a bacterium and leguminous plant is a plant. So here Parasponia and non-legumes. Here one of the exception for um, this symbiotic association is parasponia. It is forming nodules in non-leguminous plants. Next is Rhizobium leguminosarum. It is forming nodules in sweet peas. Rhizobium fascioli in broad beans. Rhizobium trifoli in clover. So here you have to observe one thing. These all three organisms, they belong to the genus Rhizobium, but the species are different and they are specific to their host. This Rhizobium leguminosarum can form nodules only in sweet beans but not in broad beans. Same way, Fascioli can form nodules in broad beans but not in sweet beans. So they are very much species specific, or they are host specific. Next, Rhizobium species in cowpeas, they are forming nodules in cowpeas, groundnut, acacia, and Bradyrhizobium japonicum is forming nodules in soybean. Cynorhizobium loti is forming nodules in lotus. Cynorhizobium meliloti in melilotus. Frankia is forming nodules in casuarina, alnus, and myrica. So all these are coming under symbiotic associations which are formed by Rhizobium species. And here you can see different types of names: Bradyrhizobium, Cynorhizobium. They are different families of Rhizobium. So till now we have seen root nodules. Now this here we can see examples of stem nodules. Okay, stem nodules means nodules are nothing but some um, lump-like structures formed on the plants. Okay, so till now we have seen root nodules. Now here we are seeing stem nodules. These nodules are formed on the stems. Example: Azorhizobium colinodans. This is forming nodules in Sesbania, Nostrata, Neptunia, etc. Same way, leaf nodules can also be seen. So these leaf nodules can be seen in um, Rubiaceae plants formed by Pavetta and Psychotria. Similarly, Klebsiella rubiacearum, Mycoplana rubra, and Abina azolla, all these are involved in all these organisms can show leaf nodules. Coming to asymbiotic nitrogen fixers. Asymbiotic means there is no symbiosis. What is symbiosis? Sym means together, bio means life. Leading life together is called as symbiotic association. So coming to asymbiotic nitrogen fixers means here there is no symbiosis. For example, if you take aerobic aerobes, there are Azotobacter, Azomonas, Bergeringia, Dirksia. In another words, these organisms, they are fixing atmospheric nitrogen and they are free living in nature. They are free living in nature. Next, anaerobes, Clostridium, Methanogens, Chromatium, etc. Same way, facultative anaerobes, there we have got the list of organisms. Next. So, from the starting slide itself, we are seeing different modes of nitrogen. First, we'll discuss about non-symbiotic nitrogen fixation. Means the organisms or the microorganisms which are living freely and independently in the soil, they are helping in nitrogen fixation. The best example is blue-green algae or the cyanobacteria. Next is associative nitrogen fixation. Okay, this is a recent addition to the family of nitrogen fixing organisms. It is usually seen in the roots of grasses and cereal plants. Here, the difference is nodules are not formed, but these bacteria grow in rhizosphere in close contact with the roots, sometimes invade the outer cortical regions of the roots and fix nitrogen. So, in the previous slide, I have told you it is something called like incomplete symbiosis, right? So, here nodules are not formed, but the organism is associating with the outer layers of the roots. Okay, outer cortical layers will be invaded by these microorganisms, but they are not forming any nodules and they are helping in nitrogen fixation. Example is Isospirillum brasiliensis, Pseudomonas acetogenesis, Enterobacter, etc. Next category is symbiotic nitrogen fixation. This is done by Rhizobium, Bradyrhizobium, cynorhizobium, mesorhizobium, or azorhizobium. Okay, so as scientists have found different types of rhizobium bacteria, they have classified this rhizobium bacteria into four families, that is four groups: rhizobium, bradyrhizobium, cynorhizobium, and mesorhizobium or azorhizobium. Now coming to as the best example for nitrogen symbiotic nitrogen fixation is legume rhizobium system. We will be studying this example in detail. First, there will be establishment of rhizobium in the roots of the host. Then we'll be studying biochemistry of nitrogen fixation. So first, as we have said, we have to we have to study about how this rhizobium bacteria is getting established in the roots of the host. So this rhizobium, which is living in the root region or rhizosphere region of a particular legume or a particular species, can form symbiotic association with its roots. The selective infection of rhizobium on specific plants is called a host specificity. For example, Rhizobium leguminosarum establishes root nodules in pea. Rhizobium fascioli induces root nodules in beans. Rhizobium japonicum forms root nodules in soya bean. Okay, here one thing we have to understand: the type of bacteria is specific to the type of plant. Okay, if that particular bacteria is present in the rhizosphere of a particular legume plant, then only they can infect the legume and they can form the nodules. This process of selective infection is called as host specificity. Now, the host specific infection of rhizobium depends on the specific flavonoid secreted by the roots of the legumes. Okay, so how this specific infection is taking place, or host specificity is taking place in nature. Okay, this is due to secretion of specific flavonoids by roots of legumes. So particular legume plant will secrete a particular group of flavonoids. Okay, these flavonoids will attract that particular rhizobium bacteria. For example, alpha alpha exudes luteolin. White clover exudes dihydroxyflavones. These are different types of flavonoids or chemicals which are released from the roots. So these roots exudates which are released, they induce certain genes of particular species of rhizobium to produce a host determinant compound on its cell wall. Okay, so here the roots of a plant are secreting some compounds called as flavonoids. These flavonoids, they are inducing some genes in a particular rhizobium to produce host specific compounds on its cell wall. Here you can see this is the alpha alpha root, this is the vascular tissue, and this is the root hair. Okay, and these are the bacteria which are having capsular polysaccharide. First, it is secreting luteolin, which is a flavonoid. This luteolin is inducing this bacteria to produce a particular capsular polysaccharide. Okay, Rhizobium trifoli is there, Rhizobium fascioli is there. So Rhizobium, it is not affecting Rhizobium fascioli, but it is affecting Rhizobium trifoli to produce a capsular sorry, it produce a compound called as lectin. Okay, capsular polysaccharide lectins on their cell wall. Okay, so with the help of these lectins, they will get attached to the root hair. In most of the cases, the host determinant compound is a capsular polysaccharide. The lectin produced by the legume root has affinity to the capsular polysaccharide. Okay, so lectins are produced by roots legume roots and capsule polysaccharides are produced by the bacteria. They are in these two compounds are having affinity to each other. Therefore, it binds with the capsular polysaccharide of the specific rhizobium, and the other end of the lectin binds with the cell wall of the polysaccharide of a root hair. Here, lectin acts as a bridge molecule. After recognition, the rhizobium infects the root hair. So, these lectin compounds are secreted by the roots of the plant, and capsular polysaccharide is produced by the bacteria. These lectins and capsular polysaccharides have some affinity. So, this lectin come and bind to the capsular polysaccharides of bacteria, and in turn it will take this capsular polysaccharide to the root hair and it will bind to the root hair. So it is acting as a bridge between cell and the root hair. So in this first reaction is nitrification. Here nitrification means ammonia is converted into nitrite ions and nitrate ions. This is the important step in this process. Actually nitrogen fixation is conversion of nitrogen to ammonia, but root nodule formation in legumes by rhizobium. So as we have seen, um, bacteria are interacting with the root hairs to form nodules. Okay, if the both if we leave the host and the bacteria separately, there won't be any nitrogen fixation. It was tested in the lab. If you keep them separately, they cannot fix the nitrogen. When you get them together, the legume plant and the rhizobium, then only they can fix the nitrogen. In response to the building of rhizobial cells, root hairs curl due to more proliferation of root cells by production of indoleacic acid, appearance of a shepherd crook. Here what happens is, when these rhizobial cells or the rhizobium is binding to the root hairs, the root hair will curl on itself, or undergo curling due to production of indole acid. So due to curling of this root hair, it will appear as a shepherd's crook. Now at the point of contact, the root hair cell wall invaginates and forms the tubular infection thread. The bacterial cell enter the root hair through the tubular infection thread and they remain extracellular within the infection thread. Here in this diagram you can understand in a better way. These are the rhizobium bacteria. This is the root hair. When they are attaching to the root hair, this root hair is undergoing twisting or curling, which is giving the shape of a shepherd's crook. Okay, then this bacteria, they will invaginate into the root hair, inside the root hair. Okay, then this infection thread, actually with this invagination is called as infection thread. This infection thread will extend up to cortical cells. Okay, but the bacteria, it's the bacteria which are entering into the cell, they are covered by a peribacteroid membrane and they will get transformed into bacteroids. They will enter into the cells, they remain in the bacteroids, and these cells they will proliferate and they form a nodule. Okay, after rhizobium proliferates, it forms the infection thread, it goes up to cortical cells, then it releases bacterial cells. When infection thread releases bacterial cells, these bacterial cells will get covered by a membrane then called as bacteroids. They become bacteroids where bacterial cell membrane will be disappearing in the root cell. Cytokinins from bacteria cause plant cortical cells to divide. The cytokinins which are present in the bacteria, they will cause the root cells to divide and then root nodule will be formed. Then bacteroids perform nitrogen fixation. Coming to the structure of the nodule. Nodule is nothing but a bulgy structure. If this is the nodule, it is attached to the root. This is the root, and let us start from here. Okay, this is the meristem of the nodule. This is the vascular tissue. Vascular tissue is meant for transporting of nutrients from the roots to the nodule. Then this is the differentiating region. Here the cells will divide, and this is the bacteroid zone. Just now we have learned that bacteroids are nothing but they are transformed bacteria which are ready for nitrogen fixation. So the entire zone is occupied by bacteroids here. And then this is the senescing bacteroids, means the bacteroids will have a particular lifespan. After the completing the lifespan, they will be moving towards this rear end, and they are all the senescing bacteroids will be present here. This is the structure of the nodule. So the bacteroids will be surrounded by peribacteroid membrane. A nodule is provided with vascular tissue which supplies the substrates for nitrogen fixation derived from plant photosynthate. Okay, the nodule will be provided with the vascular tissue. This is the vascular tissue which supplies the food for nitrogen fixation or substrates for nitrogen fixation derived from plant photosynthesis. It also carries away the products of the nodule to the remaining parts of the plant. Whatever ammonia is fixed there, it will be taken to the other parts of the plant. The effective nodules are generally large and pink due to presence of leg hemoglobin. Okay, so the good nodules or healthy nodules, they will be pink in color. This pink color is due to presence of leg hemoglobin, which is synthesized during symbiosis. So during this interaction, this leg hemoglobin will be synthesized. In this leg hemoglobin, the heme component is synthesized by bacteria and the globin part is synthesized by plant. As human hemoglobin, it is also a leg hemoglobin. In this, heme part is synthesized by bacteria and the globin part is synthesized by the host plant, and it helps in transporting oxygen to other energy generating systems and protect oxygen sensitive nitrogenase. Okay, here one point, important point is the nitrogenase. What is nitrogenase? It is the enzyme required for nitrogen fixation, or it is the enzyme which is helpful for the conversion of dinitrogen to ammonia, right? This is a major or important enzyme. So this nitrogenase enzyme is oxygen sensitive. It is oxygen sensitive, means in the presence of oxygen, this nitrogenase enzyme cannot function in a proper way, or it gets deactivated in the presence of oxygen. So to protect this oxygen sensitive nitrogenase, leg hemoglobin enzyme will divert this oxygen to other energy generating systems or other parts of the plant or the nodule, and thus protecting this nitrogenase enzyme so that a proper nitrogen fixation can be carried out. After the senescence, when the nodule dies, stationary phase rhizobia are released into the soil. So after the nodule gets aged or senesces, after it enters into senescence phase, when the nodule dies, all the bacteria which are in a stationary phase, they will be released into the soil. Coming to the biochemistry of symbiotic nitrogen fixation. Here, as we are discussing from the beginning, nitrogen fixation means nothing but conversion of nitrogen to ammonia. Okay, it requires energy. Why energy is required? To break the triple bond present between two nitrogens. Okay, this is not an easy process to break the nitrogen, right? Here, this is a somewhat elaborative equation where we can see nitrogen plus 6 protons plus 12 ATP are required, and some more elaborative, and it is another form of the reaction where we can see nitrogen plus 8 protons 8 electrons plus 16 ATP. It is giving two molecules of ammonia, one molecule of hydrogen, 16 ADP molecules, and 16 inorganic phosphate. So now let us see this pathway, how it is being processed in the plants or nodule actually. So here there is a photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is occurring in a plant. Okay. So by photosynthesis, it will plant will synthesize some sugars. That will synthesize some sugars which are converted into organic acids. Okay. So these organic acids, when they enter into the nodule, this is the nodule or bacteroid zone. This blue colored zone is a bacteroid zone. Entire this zone is a bacteroid zone. Okay. So when these organic acids are entering into the bacteroid zone, for example, succinate, malate, fumarate, they will enter into citric acid cycle. Okay. From citric acid cycle, some electrons will be generated, and these electrons will move from series of carriers and help in synthesis of ATP, okay, or energy generated here. Okay, this energy, and at the last, water is also released here. So this ATP is used by nitrogenase enzyme, which is catalyzing the conversion of nitrogen to ammonia, and then this ammonia is converted to amino acids in the bacteroid, or this ammonia, if it comes out, it will be converted into amides and urates, which are supplied to plant. Okay, this is one part. And if it is entering into citric acid cycle, this was the pathway. Otherwise, these organic acids, if they get converted into pyruvate, this pyruvate will give electrons for the conversion of nitrogen to ammonia. Okay, energy is coming from pyruvate. Sorry, electrons are coming from pyruvate. ATP is coming from here, right? So this nitrogen is like hemoglobin we have studied. So leg hemoglobin is not present inside the bacteroid zone. It is present outside because inside nitrogenase enzyme is there, and this leg hemoglobin, which is present outside the bacteroid zone, it is helping in binding of oxygen with the leg hemoglobin. It is binding with the oxygen and forming oxygen leg hemoglobin complex. So this oxygen leg hemoglobin complex, it will give oxygen here inside the cell, and this oxygen immediately join with the hydrogen. Okay, and it will form water. Whatever oxygen is present in the cell, it will be converted into water molecule and liberating this leg hemoglobin molecule. This leg hemoglobin molecule is free again to join with another oxygen molecule. So this is the bacteroid membrane, this is the symbiosome membrane, and outer to the blue border, there is a plant cytoplasm. So what are required for nitrogen fixation? First one is we need nitrogenase enzyme. Second one is we need mechanism to protect nitrogenase from oxygen, that is like hemoglobin. And the third one is energy requirement. And the fourth is source of electrons. In the previous diagram, we have seen all these things. Now let us try to understand all these processes in a detailed manner. So this nitrogenase enzyme is having two components. One is nitrogenase and the other one is nitrogen reductase. Both are iron sulfur proteins. They are present in the cytoplasm of the bacteria, right? Nitrogen enzyme is present in the bacteria. They are sensitive to oxygen, and it is nitrogenase is having larger component and includes four subunits A2 and B2. We can see the structure. Each of these subunits possesses one atom of molybdenum. That is why it is called as molybdenum iron protein. And nitrogen reductase has two subunits. It is iron protein. Okay, the actual reduction of nitrogen is catalyzed by molybdenum iron protein. Electrons reach the nitrogenous system via two electron carriers, that is ferredoxin and flavodoxin. Here we can understand nitrogen system, this enzyme is having two components. One is molybdenum iron protein and the other one is iron protein. Here molybdenum iron protein is having four subunits, two alpha subunits and two beta subunits, and iron protein is having two subunits. This is a completely iron protein. This is molybdenum iron protein. When two components come together in the presence of sodium, it will form nitrogenous complex. This structure you have to remember. Next, so this is the actual reaction, how this nitrogen is getting converted into ammonia. Here if you can see, in a sequence these bonds are broken. There is a triple bond here, there is a double bond here. Okay, so one bond is broken and two H plus and two electrons are coming to the side, and two H plus, one hydrogen on either side of the nitrogen is getting added, right? And then again two H plus ions and two electrons are coming, and first nitrogen is converted to diimine, then diimine is converted to hydrazine, and then hydrazine is converted into ammonia. Now nitrogenase, in apart from nitrogen fixation, it has another function, that is it reduces protons to molecular hydrogen. Okay, if there are H plus protons in the cell, it will be converting these protons into hydrogen. It is estimated that every nitrogen molecule reduced, one molecule of hydrogen is produced. Okay, for every nitrogen molecule one hydrogen molecule is produced. Next, so overall the equation for nitrogenase function can be written in this form. Okay, nitrogen N2 plus 16 ATP plus 8 protons, 8 electrons, right? So N2 will give 2 NH3, 2 3 just 6 hydrogens are being used. In addition to this, we are using 8 hydrogen, right? So this remaining 2 hydrogen is released as a hydrogen molecule. Okay, and then 6 ATPs will be hydrolyzed to 16 ADP and 16 inorganic phosphate. So here you can see this is the molybdenum iron protein. Here there are 4 subunits, and this is the iron protein. Here there are 2 subunits. um, just to see here, this is the ferredoxin, which is in a this is the ferredoxin which is in a reduced state. Reduced state means it is carrying hydrogen, right? It is converted into oxidized state, giving this hydrogen or protons and electrons to iron molecule. This in turn iron gets reduced, and then it will give this electrons to molybdenum iron protein, and this molybdenum iron protein will give electrons and protons to nitrogen, and then this nitrogen is converted into ammonia. In the meanwhile ATP is also hydrolyzed. Next, coming to the next enzyme, that is hydrogenase. Till now we have seen about nitrogenase enzyme, now we are talking about hydrogenase. So what is hydrogenase is, here in this diagram you can understand in a better way. Whatever hydrogen is released from the nitrogenase enzyme, it is taken by the hydrogenase and it is given again to nitrogenase. So this hydrogenase enzyme is helping in recycling of the hydrogen to nitrogenase enzyme. So this nitrogen fixation is an energy consuming process where 12 moles of ATP is utilized for fixation of 4 moles fixation, and 4 moles of ATP is used for recycling of hydrogen. Okay, so in the previous reaction we have written 16 ATP. So out of 16 ATP, 12 are used for this actual conversion of nitrogen to ammonia, whereas 4 moles are utilized for recycling of this hydrogen, as we have seen in this previous diagram. Now, the rhizobium are of two types, HUP plus and HUP minus strain. Okay, HUP plus, hydrogen uptake. This hydrogen HUP plus strain consists of nitrogenase and hydrogenase, and thereby utilize only 12 moles of ATP, whereas HUP minus utilize 16 moles of ATP. So rhizobium is of two types. One is HUP plus and the other one is HUP minus. HUP plus utilizes 12 molecules of ATP and HUP minus utilizes 16 molecules of ATP. Next, the hydrogenase also helps to remove oxygen from the vicinity of nitrogen. In the nodule diagram we have seen the hydrogen which is there, it is combining with the oxygen to form water. Next, leg hemoglobin. Leg hemoglobin, as we have seen, it is a mechanism to protect the nitrogenase from oxygen. So this is a pigment which is similar to blood hemoglobin, and it is found in the nodules mm, between bacteroids and the membrane and surrounding them, and it is synthesized jointly by both the partners of symbiotic nitrogen fixation. As we have seen in the previous slides, this is synthesized jointly by both plant and the bacteria, right? Leg, the prefix leg means legume, and it means the legume root nodule. Heme protein having a hemoid is synthesized by the heme is synthesized by the bacteria, and globin is synthesized by host plant. Like hemoglobin has affinity for, it has more affinity for oxygen, thus it is called as oxygen scavenger. It helps in maintaining sufficient and constant oxygen for both host cells and bacteroid oxidative processes, as it is present in the border of, or in the middle region of the both bacteroid and the host cell. It is it will give oxygen to both the things. Next, coming to the energy, here we need total 16 ATPs. Okay, this energy or ATPs source is varying with the diazotrope. Okay, we have seen several examples. In with every example, ATP source will differ. If you take obligate anaerobes, okay, ATPs are coming from substrate level phosphorylation. Obligate means compulsory anaerobes, and in some cases anaerobic electron transport will also release ATP. Coming to aerobes, there will be respiratory electron transport chain, and through this ETC, ATP will be generated. Phototrophs exploit photosynthetic electron flow, either cyclic or non-cyclic. If the organism is a photosynthetic organism, through cyclic or non-cyclic photosynthesis, ATP can be generated. Now, source of electrons for reduction. Now, we have seen first from where we are getting ATP. Next is electrons. Electron donors are flavodoxins and ferredoxins. So these proteins are themselves reduced to differ from organism to organism. Okay, these are getting oxidized and then oxidized, reduced. In a series of these reactions, it is transferring electrons to the site. Okay, so how these proteins are getting reduced, it will differ, the mechanism will differ from organism to organism. Rhizobium and Acinetobacter metabolically generated NADH is used to reduce pyridoxine to flavodoxin. Okay, in these organisms NADPH is used to reduce these proteins. So nitrogenase complex associated components for nitrogen fixation. Here you can see the overall reaction, ATP and protons and electrons. In the presence of magnesium, we got ammonia, hydrogen, ATP, and inorganic phosphate. In the outer side, there is a like hemoglobin, which is carrying oxygen. Okay, so this is the bacteroid, right? Here in this bacteroid, as we have seen, we are seeing nitrogenase enzyme. Nitrogenase enzyme, this is a molybdenum iron protein, and this is the iron protein. And here there is a ferredoxin proteins, ferredoxin or flavodoxin. Okay, so if you can see, sugars are coming into the nodule through respiration. It will be converted into carbon dioxide and water. In this process of respiration, ATPs are getting released, NADH and ATP. Okay, if it is a NADH, it is converting this converting this ferredoxin to reduced form, and in when this ferredoxin get again oxidized, it will give this molecules or electrons to, in turn it will reduce, when it is getting oxidized, it will reduce iron protein. When this iron protein gets oxidized, it will reduce molybdenum iron protein. When this gets oxidized, it will convert nitrogen to ammonia. Now, till now we have seen ammonia is formed within the bacteroid. Now, how this ammonia will get transported to host cell? Okay, once the ammonia is formed, it should also get transported to host cell where it has to serve some purpose, right? So, for this transport, there are molecules called glutamate dehydrogenase and GS or GOGAT. GS means glutamine synthase and GOGAT means glutamine oxyglutarate amide transferase. These proteins will help in transferring of ammonia from bacteroid to host cell. So the synthesis of these enzymes is suppressed in the bacteroids. These enzymes are not synthesized in the bacteroids, but they are synthesized outside the bacteroids. Thus, due to concentration gradient, the ammonia diffuses freely across the bacteroid and peribacteroid membrane into the cytoplasm of the host cell. So this ammonia has got affinity to these enzymes, and due to presence of more concentration of these enzymes outside the nodule, the ammonia will cross the bacteria and combine with this enzymes. And using these enzymes, it will this here you can see ammonia is reacting with alpha ketogluteric acid and NADPH in the presence of enzyme glutamate dehydrogenase. So this alpha ketogluteric acid is converted into glutamate. If you incorporate or if you add one amino group, this ketogluteric acid can get converted into glutamate. Same way, aspartic acid by adding of ammonia amino group, it will get converted into asparagine. Same way, glutamine by or aspartic acid, glutamine aspartic acid, when they interconvert, it will change into glutamic acid and asparagine. Here in all the reactions, it is nothing but the transfer of amino group onto the another molecule, and the enzymes are glutamate dehydrogenase, asparagine synthetase, glutamine aspartate, transamidase. Here amino group is getting transferred from one compound to another compound. So the ammonia which is moving to host plant, it is used in the biosynthesis of urites such as glutamine, glutamate, and aspartate, as we have seen in the slide before, previous slide. Purines are synthesized from glutamine and are used in biosynthesis of allantoin and allantoic acid. These compounds are released in the xylem sap of the root. Glutamine aspartate are converted to asparagines and is released into the root. So this is the process how the ammonia which is being synthesized in the plant is being utilized. Okay, so basically they are used for formation of purines, and in turn they are used in the synthesis of allantoin and allantoic acid, and other amino acids are also formed by the ammonia which is formed in this process. Some non-protein amino acids are also there, such as homoserine, citrulline, cannabine, etc. They are synthesized from glutamate, glutamine, and aspartate, and they are released into the xylem sap. What is xylem? It is the compound. It is the channel in the plant which supplies water or liquid component. Okay, so through xylem, these amino acids are getting transported throughout the plant. All these compounds are transported to various parts of the plant where they are used in cellular metabolism. Here you can see this. This is the bacteroid zone. This is the bacteroid. Ammonia is formed here. This ammonia is combining with all these compounds, and they are used in the formation of purines, or non-protein amino acids are formed. Some amino acids are formed. They are used in formation of allantoin or allantoic acid. It is also all taking in a place of root nodule, and again these compounds are getting released into the xylem tissue of the plant. These through xylem, these compounds will be transported to other parts of the plant. So with this, we can end the session. Here in this session, we have learned in detail about the symbiotic nitrogen fixation. Thank you.